right, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. Super pumped to be here. You are listening to Honest to God on AM 1160 The Quest, Atlanta's Catholic radio. We got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about all things tattoos. We've got one long lost returning guest over here, Abby. We got Juan Pablo, brand new in studio. Pumped for him. We got Nini. You've seen her 100 times, but it's better every time. It's amazing. Yeah,
always.
You're a shining light in the darkness, Nini.
Always.
We appreciate you being here. And pretty much as always, we still got JJ hanging around, mostly because JJ doesn't have a house to live in. And so he sits here in exchange for being warm and dry in inclement weather. And we're glad that you're here, JJ. We're going to get started and talk about all things tattoo and body art here in a minute. We can expand that out, right? Talk about piercings, talk about all those things. Yeah. Okay, cool. But first, we're going to begin as we do all things in prayer. Any volunteers? You have approximately 1/4 of a second to volunteer before I pick somebody. All right, you got it, JJ. Whenever you're ready, Byzantine us up, our Eastern Catholic brother.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. God, light of the universe, salvation of my soul, salvation of the world. Please send your Holy Spirit upon us. Help us to talk faithfully and fruitfully about you, about your work, about how to direct ourselves to you and make our bodies a temple for your Holy Spirit. We ask that you guide us now and always. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
That was killer. That was great. Big shout out to Father Lewis if he's listening. I'm sure he'd be proud. That's awesome. JJ's Byzantine Catholic, so
The best kind.
he's. I mean,
That's
okay.
what the beast is.
An equally doctrinally sound and orthodox kind. I'm not gonna start ranking.
Not orthodox.
We're all Catholic. Not lowercase o. Lowercase o
yeah.
Orthodox, like the legit kind. Yeah. That's awesome. All right, so like I said earlier, today's we're talking about tattoos. We're talking about body modifications in general, body art, piercings, all that fun stuff. And before we get started, we open it up with fun facts. I want to let everybody know that my full disclosure, my opinion on tattoos all are based on the fact that Father Mike Schmidt says it's okay, and I'm just gonna roll with it because he said it was. So he's got one. It's pretty good. If Father Mike Schmidt tomorrow came out with like a septum piercing, I might get a septum piercing. I'm sorry, that guy's got a lot of influence over this guy right here. But first, let's do our fun facts. You should only have one because you've been here before.
Okay, good,
but
thank you.
No, but you got two. You have two because it's been so long, so you've earned another one back.
I needed you to tell me that before we were on
I'm
air.
sorry.
Thanks.
No, this is the beauty of live radio. If you are
man.
listening, once again, this is live radio. Definitely was not filmed a month ago in the studio. And then Juan Pablo is going to give us 5. Nini owes us 1. JJ owes us 1, and producer Ben's going to give us 1 today too.
Me?
Yeah, man, I can't wait. Super pumped. Whenever you're ready, Abby.
All right. So, fun fact, I am an artist. I love art. The other fun fact from last time, I just had emergency dental surgery, so I was a bit of a gopher on air, and I'm like really thankful to have my mouth back and to actually be here and like not just be gopher me, but to be real me. So.
Well, no, that's fantastic. Awesome. I remember having my wisdom teeth taken out, and that was an adventure for a little while. Yeah. All right, Juan Pablo, you got 5 for us, brother.
Got 5. Wow. So I will start off by saying I have 21 tattoos just about myself. I've been practicing Catholic since I was 4 years old, my first mass.
Nice.
I remember I was bribed with Chuck E. Cheese after. They were just like, just sit through this mass and we'll take you. I got that Chuck E. Cheese. It's good in mass ever since.
Heck yeah.
I'm here because I got caught up on campus with Roman Catholic. They were roaming around looking for Catholics, and I saw them. I wanted to be interviewed. I had things to say. There's nothing more fulfilling than upstaging other college students on camera and showing them how good I can be perceived.
He was the only person that came up to us while we were filming that day, and by far the best interview we had that whole day.
Let's see. I've only been to... I only know my prayers in Spanish, which is very strange. So
Lo siento, pero no hablo español, solo inglés.
So when y'all were doing the sign of the cross, I was like, in Spanish is por la señal de la Santa Cruz de nuestros enemigos, líbranos Señor Dios nuestro, en el nombre del Padre, el Hijo, el Espíritu Santo. Amen. That's for you guys.
I'm holier now.
That was good. Let's kill it.
Last fun fact is every time I've asked about body modifications and piercings, whether it to be my parents or one of my pastors, one of my peers, they're always just like, yeah, Bible says that's wrong, you can't do it. But my justification is, my fun fact is that if God wants me to take care of my temple, I will take care of it as best as I can. I want to decorate it, tell its story, because I have a definite story to tell that tattoos help me get there.
All right, I like that. That was great.
I love that.
Yeah. JJ, you don't know do you do the sign of the cross in Greek? Okay.
No, I was
Represent, man. Come on.
Latin.
You gotta show all you guys up too. That's not fair. Yeah, Latin. That's fine. That's cool. Yeah. Spiritu Santi. Yeah. No, that's good. All right. Whenever you're ready, Nini.
My fun fact is I got another dog.
You got 2 dogs now.
I have 2 dogs now.
All right.
They're both golden doodles, and they're 3 months apart. So I have Oakley, which is my curly-haired buddy, and then I have my mom's dog, which is really my dog now, named Milo, and he's 3 months.
So this episode of Honest to God for Dogs that we've got coming up is going to be pretty great. I'm going to keep promising that until the studio.
It's
lets
gonna
us do
happen.
that.
I'm gonna have 2 dogs with me.
Yeah. No, we're not going to be in it. It's just going to be me and
Be all
Ben
dogs.
and dogs and all the chairs, and we're going to talk to them like it's a normal Honest to God. There's going to be a lot of dead
Here's
air.
the preview.
It's going to be killer. Okay, awesome. I'm getting a new dog on April 29th.
Stop, what kind?
Really?
So I'm kind of embarrassed. I mean, I've got a black lab. He's a hunting dog. He blood trails deer. He's a dog. He's a man's
dog.
Yeah. We're going to corgi. Oh. Yeah, pretty cute. Pretty
so cute.
Yeah, we're actually getting a stud corgi for some friends of ours that breed them. They have 3 corgis, and they said that they had been taking them to a breeder, but there was just a whole lot of I don't want to throw around the word puppy mill, but they just weren't really happy with the way that the dogs were living, and so they said, no, we want to know their dad and know that he's being taken care of and everything, and so we're getting a corgi. Right now, we're torn on names between Carlos, Elvis, and Tater.
Tater.
So I'm on Team Tater.
I'm on Team Tater.
But I like
I'm on
people
Tater
names.
Tater.
I got a dog
Known.
named Jeff, and I thought so I liked Carlos, Dave, and Doug, but we narrowed it down to just Carlos after a round of voting, and anyway, after a few more rounds of different things, now it's Carlos, Tater, or Elvis, and I'm on Team Tater right now.
I like Tater.
Yeah. His full name would be Tater Tot, but we'd call him Tater.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. They look like Tater Tots.
Cool.
All right,
They do.
JJ.
I built a bed in the back of the van this summer, and that's not the fun part because there are beds in all sorts of cars, RVs. The fun part is the legs were different lengths. There aren't a whole lot of beds with different length legs.
What's wrong with your van? Why are they different lengths?
To get maximum beddage out of
Gotta get maximum beddage.
out of the minimum vantage we had. We had to kind of go over the wheel well.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
kind of got one of them to be shorter to keep the bed.
That's pretty
level.
cool. Did
Yeah.
you actually go road tripping in your van?
Yeah, we did
That's pretty cool.
2 weeks on the road. It was
That's
pretty
sick.
great.
I like that a lot. That's all. I'm actually a big fan of the road tripping.
great.
We did the Great Plains a couple summers ago. I want to do the Southwest this summer. I want to go out past El Paso, I don't know, Santa Fe. I really want to see.
Where
There's
we
that staircase, that miraculous staircase. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Where the nuns need a staircase
The St.
built.
Joseph staircase. Yeah.
and it's out there, and I really want to go see that.
That's
I want to
pretty
make that
cool.
the destination, check that out, do a pilgrimage, but stop on all the things along the way, see the Grand Canyon.
That's what we did.
Do that, yeah.
We went down the south side, so we actually swam in the Texas Gulf area.
Cool.
area.
That's so
It was
cool.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
All right, well that is killer. I think we're about to get started and go through some tattoo stories and hear what people have to say about all of those. And I don't know exactly how we want to frame this. Basically, I just want to hear what tattoo do you have and what's the story behind it, or pick your favorite. If you got 20 something of them, and then sort of get into it from a moral standpoint and all of that. Let's start with Madeline. Madeline, can you tell us the story of your tattoo and get into that?
Yeah, so I actually just got it a week ago from when we filmed this. And
You got it for this show.
I did. I got it for the show actually. So I'll show the camera. It's 12:34 for those listening, and it's
I'm gonna interrupt you. Sorry. Can I tell you what my guess is?
Yes, go for it.
My guess is you really like the Justin Timberlake movie from the early 2000s called In Time. Yeah, where they had how long they had left to live on their forearm, and so you decided to get one of those.
How
so
did
you
you
always have
know?
12 hours and 34 minutes to live. Is that what it is?
No.
Shoot. Okay.
So when I was growing up, my dad would talk about how when he was a young adult, he went to this talk, and the man was saying how different ways to incorporate God in your day and prayer and like have it more in your daily life. And one thing is like sometimes you look at the clock and it's like 3:33 or 11:11 or 12:12, 4:44, stuff like that. And so he was like, every single time you see that, just have that as your reminder to send up a prayer, talk to God, pray a rosary, do something religious. Right. And so I started doing that, but I started seeing 12:34 a lot. And also it's just so fun because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and that's why it's my favorite time, because a lot of times I tell people, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 12:34. And they're like, and? I'm like, it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right, killer.
And so especially when I got to high school, like 10th grade biology class, I was like, I saw it every single day.
Yeah.
And then it's something that I always get happy about. I get excited about it. I love to share with people. And it's kind of fun because in the beginning, everyone's like annoyed by it. But then like people I haven't seen in a while, or even like my friends now, I will like meet up with them and they'll be like, I saw 12:34 the other day and I thought of you. And I was like, it's just
cool.
Warms my heart. So
I like
and my friend suggested it to me because I was like, I really want to get a tattoo, but I don't know what I want to get it of. And she's like, do 12:34. And so I sat on it for a year and I got it.
That's cool. I like that. My number that I always catch for whatever reason, there's no significance aside from I always catch this like twice a day. It's crazy. 11:07. I always catch 11:07. I don't know what it is. I don't know why.
Just a little off from 11:11.
Yeah.
That's the lucky one, man.
I know, but that's not the one I get.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Just a sign that I'm never going to get the lucky.
No, it's a sign that you need to stare at the clock for 4 minutes.
Twice a day, every day. I like that.
I had a friend in high school who would who like every day he would see 9/11. It was bizarre. 9/11 every time, and we'd like catch him on it. So we'd be sitting there, and he would almost see it as like a bad omen.
Yeah, get the FBI to investigate.
He would see it as a bad omen. So he would always try to be not looking at the clocks in the mornings. Just not looking at the clocks. And then like I would glance down at my clock and it'd be like 9:10 and I'd be like, hey Zach, look what time it is.
We don't believe in bad omens and evil talismans and all of that. No, that's interesting.
But I love Madeline's story and her tattoo. Like, she's been talking about it for a while. And it's great. Looks great.
That's great. JJ, what about you?
Oh, my tattoo?
Yeah.
Well, I actually love my tattoo. It's great. I should have put it on my left arm, knowing that I would be on this podcast in like 6 months.
That was selfish of you not to.
But, can I see it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it says love kills lust, but lust kills love.
Right.
It's like a circle, like the water cycle, that sort of thing. And the idea behind it is that they're kind of constantly in battle, and you've got to pick one of them because whichever one you pick will kill the other one.
We got into a lot of that when we did the theology of the body episode. And I was just giving this talk to a group of kids not too long ago about how lust, or I guess I was looking at it more from a positive standpoint, right? Chastity is something that we're called to forever and ever, right? It's not like now that I'm married, I'm allowed to lust after my wife. It's never okay, right? Yeah. Because it entails the objectification of the person, right? And it is the antithesis of love, right? It is lust and use, right? Are very similar, right? That's what we're getting at. It's just use in a sexual sense. And I don't know. I dig that. I think that's cool. Yeah. I do a lot of theology of the body stuff.
That's the big thing, is that lust is using. Some people misunderstand it to be like, oh, that's just like sexual appreciation. And it's like,
well, they think it's eros, right? They think it's like sensual, right? Like passionate love, and not what it is.
What I always tell people about that, when you hear someone say like, I love my wife, you're like, yes. If someone's like, I lust after my wife, you will raise an eyebrow. You'll turn your head. You're like, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Is she okay?
Serious personal problem. Yeah.
I'll pray for you.
Yeah. And that's super recent, right? Because I've seen you in short sleeves before. That tattoo.
Oh gosh. It's probably been about 6 months or so.
I've seen you in short sleeves about 6.5 months ago. Maybe that's right.
You're right.
It's been a long winter.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Maybe that is actually what it is. This is the first day. It's kind of warm outside.
Yeah.
So this is in the 80s.
Also, the way it's very inconspicuous if I'm like sitting like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People always notice it at work, because at work I'll be like scanning groceries or something.
Right.
And I'm always really surprised by like how quickly people notice it.
Does it lead to a lot of conversations?
Not huge conversations, because like the people behind them want their groceries, but like people.
I just mean in general, not necessarily while you're ringing up groceries.
No, it does. It's there was someone who I just saw and they pointed it out. I'm like, what's that mean? And I explained it, and they're like, oh, That's good, dude. I hope you end up choosing love. I was like, I'm trying to.
Was that just a rando? Just a stranger?
Yeah, it was the rando.
That's cool. I dig
really
that.
cool.
I like
That's
that.
great.
All right, Nene, what you got?
So I kind of wish I did like where I can see it, but it's a cross with a vine and branches.
Okay.
And so it is symbolizing my faith journey
Mhm.
because I'm always growing. But I'm getting another one in a few weeks, and it's gonna be
A bigger cross with a bigger vine.
close. It's gonna be my birth flower, and then my parents and my brother's birth flower. Because my parents, my brother, they're all born in March,
Uh-huh.
and I'm born in July,
I'm born in July too. When's your birthday?
July 1st.
Oh, mine's July 7th.
Yeah,
It's close.
it's
It's
close.
good. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna get their flowers, and then mine as a little bouquet arrangement, like right here, and then later on add my dog's birth as well.
Oh,
The dogs. Okay,
the dogs
great.
have to be included.
No, and I want to get into all of that. I'm not asking follow-up questions right now because I want to ask follow-up questions a little bit about all of these things and what we should get tattoos of and what we shouldn't. And I'm not attacking your dog tattoo, but I want to flesh it out a little bit. That's killer. All right. I don't know, brother. You said you got a bunch. So pick your
do have a
favorite or
bunch.
overall, whatever. You can do your first if you
Yeah,
wanted
I think
to.
my
Whatever you
first
want.
would have been a very good one because that's the one that I definitely felt like I had to put the most thought into. It's the one that was going to set the theme for am I going to get just a bunch of really dumb stuff, be crazy, justify it later, or am I going to think about it, really enjoy what I'm getting, and be able to show it off? And it just really makes you think like at one moment you'll be climbing up the mountain and you'll be at the peak and you'll feel manic, you're at the top of the world and nothing can bring you down. Then another, you could be at the deepest pit of the ocean and those waves are tumbling you, man, and they're knocking you down and you're just like, will I ever get back to where I was? Will I ever feel like I can walk up that mountain again? And you have to remember nothing is permanent. Like the circle will continue to happen. The snake will eat its own tail. You'll end up right back where you were at one point. So remembering the good and the bad isn't permanent. It's transitory, and nothing is there's what's the thing that manly people said? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Everything is transitory except man and his own soul. So as long as you never give up, realize that the next phase is coming. That's all that matters. You're never going to be stuck in one point ever. Rely on your family, rely on those around you.
Well, and that goes back into what we were talking about on a recent episode, talking about sort of the transitory nature of suffering and how when we get caught up in an understanding that life should be geared towards eliminating suffering instead of understanding that suffering is a part of life, right? It's going to make us miserable. If we're just trying to eliminate suffering without this understanding that, like, no, I'm a human being and this is part of the human existence because I'm not created for this world, right? I'm created for the next. And there's going to be suffering and there's going to be tragedy, and we have to accept that. That doesn't mean that we don't try to minimize it. That doesn't mean that we don't try to fight against it. But we have to not pretend like suffering is not part of our human experience, right? As these fallen, broken creatures, we screwed that up in the garden, right? And we have to accept that that's part of this whole thing because this earthly existence is such a tiny snapshot.
If I could say that, breaking the illusion that everyone in life thinks they're such an individual, but we're connected through our mutual suffering. We're connected through our mutual ability to thrive in rough situations. And breaking that illusion is, I think, one of the most difficult things in today's age. How can we always go to that, like this, how can you understand what I've been through? How do you know what my life's been? It's really, that's what we're here for. We're supposed to share our experiences and lift each other up. That's what makes the most difference.
Yeah, no, so another thing that we've talked about again and again is you hear this, you hear a mantra a lot in our modern society that talks about like living your truth and all of these things, that this rejection of, or this embracing of this relativistic worldview and this rejection of the truth that there is truth, right? There is truth, and we are all on the same path in the same direction for the same reason, that is ultimately salvation and union with our Lord for eternity, right? And once we get so caught up in the individualness and or the sort of that self-centeredness of me, we lose sight of the greater goal. That's great. Do you have any others you want to go off on, or is that you want to come back to you in a minute?
Yeah, let's
all
go
right.
to Abby.
Abby, what you
I
got?
don't know. Your St. Michael one's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
just
have to go
saying.
back to that at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I love your perspective and well said. I believe I might be the only person who does not have a tattoo in the room.
Get out.
The non-decorated temple, if you will. But my belief around that is because I don't believe that I can decorate my temple more than what God has already given me. So I hold fast to that. And I really believe that He's created my body in the way that He wants it to be created. And I am an artist, so I love art. But I don't believe that my temple personally is what that art should be going on.
Yeah, well, let's flesh that out, right? And what I don't want to do is start an argument or anything like that. We're not right. I don't want to, but what I'm saying is, feel free to disagree. Like I want to go back and forth on some perspectives.
I do want to make very clear, I don't judge anyone that has them. I don't. The church certainly doesn't tell us that it is explicitly wrong. It gives us guidelines, but it doesn't condemn them.
Right.
And so I don't condemn anyone that has them. I have many friends that have them. Yeah. So just giving that disclaimer before, people come after me.
Once again,
I'm not here to
Father
fight.
Mike Schmidt says it's okay, so that's my only. That's all I have. We should have busted out. If you exist, Shino Spinny, would you mind pulling up the Catechism on it? I'm interested. I'd like to talk about the Catechism. Just if there's something in the Catechism about tattoos. Because I don't know, and I didn't do enough show prep to be ready for that, and I should have. I can't believe I didn't think of that.
I can tell you something that's allegedly in the Catechism about tattoos.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I mean, you can Google it. Like it's
pretty sure
it either is or it isn't.
Pretty sure this is not. I know this is not right, but apparently my father thought that there was something in the Catechism against tattoos. So way back in the olden days, before I existed, whenever my mom toyed around.
Distant times.
My mom toyed around with the idea at some point, and my dad was like, "It's not in the Catechism, though." Or he's like, "It's in the Catechism that you're not supposed to do that." And I think we found out since then that that's not the case. But what you said though, as a choice, I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'll bring it up because I'm obnoxious about it. But I'm Byzantine Catholic, and Byzantine churches, we don't have like any of like the pianos or the guitars, and that's not because we think they're evil, but that's because we think that there's just something so beautiful about just the unadulterated human voice. And anytime that you choose to do something as a way of appreciating things as God has made them is like a beautiful thing, I think.
That's a really cool analogy. I like that analogy a lot.
like that.
For the record, I'm not a big fan of the guitars or piano in Mass either.
Yeah.
But
What
once
are
again,
you a
that's
fan
not
of?
doctrinal. I think we went too far around the year 600 when we introduced polyphony. What was going on with that? No, I'm kidding. I love a good school of choir, though. I am a big fan. I don't mind an organ. But once again, these are all personal preferences. These aren't. It doesn't have anything to do with orthodoxy. I think I've said this a few times on the air in past episodes. But the older I get, the more I realize that there's a difference between orthodoxy and liturgical preference. Right? Just because I don't personally like something does not make it verboten in the church. Right? So I want to dig into that. Just from the great right beyond over there, where in infinite knowledge is kept. I just got an update on what the Catechism says, and the Catechism doesn't make explicit reference at all to tattoos. The only thing that comes close, and it quotes Leviticus on this, is where Leviticus references mutilations of the body, and it says you cannot mutilate your body, which makes sense. But there's nothing specifically on tattoos. And I think you might have mentioned this, Juan Pablo, or somebody did, talking about sort of the Old Testament, what it says in the Bible, because it is in the Levitical law, right? And there's a lot of stuff in the Levitical law that, right, in regards to shellfish and cutting the hair on your temples and mixing cloths and all of these things that we are not bound to as Christians, right? And so I don't want to say I want to throw the Levitical law out in this discussion, but I do want to say, like, I don't think that holds a lot of water when we're discussing the morality of something. Yeah.
Something I saw as like a good line of distinction between what in the Levitical law is moral and what of it is specifically for the Jews is, does it call into question other nations for doing that? Because lots of the things were about the Jews were supposed to distinguish themselves from other people, set themselves apart.
You've been reading Catechism in a year?
Maybe.
Oh, yeah. Father Mike goes off on this. Yeah, it's great.
Off.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But yeah, so things like don't mix different types of cloths, or you need the exact right amount of tassels. I think we can safely say that's not a morally
We're not bound to
binding
that.
thing for us. But it showed that you saw a Jew and you knew it was a Jew. They were people set apart, people chosen.
As opposed to the moral law,
Yeah.
right, which is universal.
Exactly. And what you'll see a lot of the time with the moral law and Levitical law is it will call other nations bad for doing these things. Say, like, don't do any of these things because the people in this land before you did them, and this is why they were spat out.
Right.
They weren't Jews, so they didn't have to, weren't bound by Jewish things,
And
but they were bound by moral things.
Yeah, and that's the distinction that we see in the Old Testament is things that laws that were applied to non-Jews. And so you hear things like people will lump in the church's teaching on homosexuality or the church's teaching on something like that, some hot button thing. They'll say, well, isn't that Old Testament law? Wait, are you also wearing mixed fabric clothing or whatever? It's like, no, there is a clear distinction that is made even when you're reading it. I do want to open this one by asking a question, and then I'm really curious to hear some of Abby's input on just this whole discussion, because I think it's very interesting to me. I know it's very interesting to me. I think it might be interesting to you too. That's what I should have said, Ben. But here we are. So I want to throw that out there to everybody, right? What should you get tattoos of? I mean, I know a lot of people who have tattoos. I know a lot of people who have tattoos of lots of different things. I have a dear friend of mine, a roommate that I grew up, or that I've stayed close with since college, and he's got a big old Saint Michael the Archangel. He's got a beautiful Sacred Heart tattooed on one side. He's got a lot of that imagery, and then I know people who have like their own names tattooed on them. And I'm not knocking it right now, but I'm curious about what our thoughts are going into it. Anybody want to start us off? Nina, you look like you do.
Why do you always pick on me?
You move towards the microphone.
I
I'm pretty sure
technically
there's
move towards away, but I mean, personally, it took me like 3 years to figure out that I wanted a tattoo. Like, I knew I wanted one, but I didn't know what of just yet. And so I was like, let me get like something permanent on my body that, you know, I cannot take off. It better be something that I really want, that meant a lot to me. So like the reason why I got mine is because like I had a very like strong faith journey with mine. And so I'm just like, I want something to like remind myself that like through the darkest times, like I have grown a lot from my past. And that's why I got mine. I have friends that literally has a balloon, and I asked her, like, what's that mean? She's like, I just want a balloon. I'm like,
I like balloons.
she didn't even say, she said, I just want a balloon. I'm like, okay. So I think that like your first tattoo should be something that's like very sentimental to you if you're gonna get one, because like again,
Why are you saying your first though? Are you saying that there's a point where it becomes balloons, or what's the
I think so. I think if you're gonna get a tattoo, just like your first one or just in general get another one, like it should be something meaningful, sentimental to you, because it is gonna be on your body until you're old and wrinkly. And yeah,
it's gonna look worse when you're old and wrinkly.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other thoughts?
I think definitely, I think there's 3 criteria. I think criteria number 1 is it means something to you. And criteria number 2 is it should look objectively nice in some sense, or it shouldn't, at the very least, it shouldn't look objectively ugly. It shouldn't be like, it's okay that it's disgusting and like making my body look gross because it means something to me. It should be something that's nice to other people too, even if they don't know.
Was it you that brought up tattoos as a form of self-harm, or was that Juan Pablo over there?
Yeah.
I think that's I've watched like those TLC shows or whatever of people who are doing all sorts of, but for the purpose of being ugly, right? Mm-hmm. And not to harp too much on this, but I think it's absolutely worth being said. All things we do should reflect the true, the good, and the beautiful, right? And not. And body modifications are not an exception to that rule. And I think that there is something to that.
I will say when you say the true, the good, and the beautiful,
sure.
The true is ugly. There's the dichotomy of man who, there's the people who will do everything with purpose, but that only has meaning if they're the people who do everything without it. There's the people who go there and just say, I want to be covered with a bunch of dime store tattoos. I want them to look like I just got them out of the little gumball machine and I plastered them on, and good for them. I'm sure they have their whole purpose of why they did that. But when it comes to having a significance, when people like us who put more thought into them, there's a difference between people who do it for a reason and people who don't. People who do it for a reminder to be better, and people who do it as a little call for attention, because who doesn't want to be different? Who doesn't want to look extreme? Who doesn't want to be the coolest guy in the room?
Right, but I mean, to take that to its logical conclusion, right? I could chop my hand off with a table saw and get a lot of attention. I know that's not what you're saying, but I'm saying like there is a truth that is being reflected or not. And when you said the truth is ugly, I would argue that that suffering is ugly. There are very real elements of being human that are not attractive, right? But truth, being truth with a capital T, is beautiful in that it's a reflection of the Creator. I don't know. We can go down that rabbit hole, but you had a finger up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So like when you're talking about the person who wants to choose to be covered with like the dime store tattoos, like good for her. And like my heart was like breaking, like hearing you say that, because I'm like, no, that's like heartbreaking for her, because what that tells me is like that's all she believes she's worth. You know, like, or maybe that's all she can afford, because let's be real, tattoos are extremely expensive. You know, and so like what is she trying to express, like in and through that? Like she is expressing her truth, but is she expressing the higher truth of what her body actually is, you know, which is this beautiful temple of the Holy Spirit? And we believe that for everybody, not just people who have been baptized. Like we believe that everyone's created in the image and likeness of God. And so everyone has the capacity to be the temple of the Holy Spirit. I think the other biggest tragedy that I see like with tattoos is that we go through seasons in life. Like we are often, you know, and we grow a lot. And as you were saying, like about suffering, the importance of remembering that suffering is transitory, like that it's not our permanent state. To me, the biggest tragedy is when I see somebody that has put something and immortalized something on their body that's depicting a very painful time of their life, or a very like something that hurt them deeply. And yet it's going to be there forever. Like it doesn't matter if they go to confession and they get free from it and they're clear. I mean, it does matter, but like it doesn't take that tattoo away, right? Like they have a permanent reminder of that horrible, horrific thing in their life for a lot of them. And so that's why I think sometimes it actually impedes the grieving process, and it becomes an immortalization of trauma rather than a victory. And like we're called to be a people of victory. Like we're called to be able to heal and to be resurrected. We're not meant to like permanently stay in the tomb or like permanently be on the cross. And so like what we do with our bodies matter. And just like coming back, so like I love the theology of the body. I probably, just so y'all know, I probably would have a tattoo had I not encountered theology of the body. Really? But in encountering theology of the body, this is basically, I want to share with you a quote here. So I'm kind of breaking the rule and having a phone in front of me, but it's all good. It's the body, and in fact only the body, is capable of making visible what is invisible, the spiritual and the divine. And so when we look at that, and then we put this in context of what we're doing to our bodies, what are the spirits that we're showing in our body with these tattoos? You know, are we showing a spirit of rebellion? Are we showing a spirit of vanity? You know, not everyone is. You know, there are you know, some would argue that, you know, if you get a tattoo of the Blessed Virgin Mary, like we're honoring Mary, and that's a reminder, you know, of the Blessed Virgin Mary. But like, then I also want to like think about like Juan Diego, right? And the tilma. You know, Mary could have tattooed herself on Juan Diego's chest, you know, but she didn't. She put it on the fabric, on the garment that he was wearing. Why? Was it because she was honoring and reverencing the sacredness of his body in doing that? You know, was it because she wanted the permanence of that art, that beauty, that image, to be able to be here long after Juan Diego's like passed on, right? So like we're not adoring Juan Diego's like tattooed chest, we're adoring his garment, you know, and we're adoring it because of what the Blessed Mother did to it, not because of what he chose to do to it. Does that make sense?
That's interesting. Yeah, JJ.
No, all that makes a lot of sense, and it's really beautiful. Definitely with the possibility of a tattoo being a reminder of a time of suffering, I don't think that's a bad thing unless there's something in the tattoo that makes it an irredeemable suffering. Because I was thinking about this on the way over. I'm so excited to share this. The best tattoo ever is the wounds that Jesus held on to after his resurrection.
All right, flesh that out for me.
So he could have resurrected himself as like, look, no wounds, flawless. I've conquered the wounds. But he wanted to hold on to that because that's part of his story. That's a reminder of how much he loves us. He didn't have to have them, but he chose that he wanted to keep the hole in his chest. The redeemed, glorified body of Jesus in heaven has the wounds. And also, if anyone has the pleasure of being tattooed by God, that tattoo is the stigmata, which happens. And I think it's cool.
Okay. Juan Pablo.
I think the whole importance of the depiction of Jesus being the personification of the human experience, being like God coming down to experience what it is to be human. I think that's very amazing to hear that, because saying tattooed by God is a very interesting perspective because it is saying like, this is the story that this divine temple is telling. This is how I ended up. This is where I am now. And when I do think about the suffering that people have, been through, and if they decide to immortalize that on their body, it's more of just like, tattoos aren't permanent nowadays. If people want to spend money to take them off, remove them, and make them horrible looking, get them covered up, you can. That's a perfect choice, but it's a process, dude. People look back. You aren't who you are today without fully remembering everything that you went through in the past. And one of the reasons why I think tattoos that have significance and true significance are so important is because, say, when are you a practicing Catholic? When are you a practicing, devoted, spiritual person? When are you a friend to others? How often do you, extend that hand? How often do you extend that hand to the person who needs it? It's really, why do people have to hide so much? Why is everyone so afraid of being that nice person that Jesus was? Why is everyone so afraid of charity? Why is everyone so afraid of helping?
And tie that back to tattoos for me. Sorry, I lost it a little bit.
It's having that reminder that we're not perfect, that we all have this horrible, we all have points of horridness in ourselves that we have to forgive ourselves for. And, if you have a tattoo that reminds you, like, this is where I was and I'll never be there again, I have to do something to help someone else get out of that.
Well, and I hear that in regards to what JJ said about, and I don't mean to make this a really specific conversation about tattoos that have to do with suffering, but I think it is worth digging into with redemptive suffering, right? I hear that. I hear that as a reminder. If the reminder is not, if it's not a testament to how, like, broken you are, right? But instead a testament to your redemption, right? Nini, yeah.
So I really do love what you said, that like we are to celebrate our victories and everything. I love that. Kind of like what Abby said, like opposite from what the boys are talking about suffering, like my tattoo resembles like my victory. Like I was in a really dark place in my early 20s and everything, and then with like me going back into like coming back to the church and then me growing from that, I think like my tattoo symbolizes my victory in a way, because like it does remind me like how much I have changed and how much I have grown my faith and how much stronger I am now. Like I'm able to, like, I used to do youth ministry with like Life Teen and everything. So when I had my tattoo, they're like, oh my gosh, like what does that mean? And so I was able to kind of like talk to my teens, and most specifically like girls. I really minister to like my girls because I wanted to be like a role model for them in a way, and be like I had teens who were saying I'm really depressed or I'm really anxious. I'm like, well, I used to be that way, but like, I was able to grow and I'm still here and all that stuff. So my tattoo reminds me of my victory, and I really love when you said that like we are meant for our victories and everything too. So
and I want to touch back on what you were saying, JJ, because I do love that you shared that. But I do think there's a difference, right? I think Jesus, Jesus's wounds are piercings. If we really want to get down to semantics, like he didn't inject toxic dye into his body in order to create an image permanently on himself. He allowed himself to be pierced for our transgressions and to save the entire human race from our sins. He took upon himself what was meant for us. He took it upon himself, and he went through that so that we didn't have to. So like, that's where I stand on that, is like, I don't see these wounds of his as a tattoo. Like, to me, that's just like trying to trying to glorify something that was not glorified, at least not yet. I will freely say we will. I do believe that we will have saints that have tattoos someday. I 100% believe that. And in that case, there may be a glorification, but it probably won't be on their glorified body. Let's be real. We get new bodies. So the wounds. Why did Jesus keep these wounds? They are so powerful, and he kept them so that we would know that our wounds could be glorified, that we didn't have to have them forever, like that they could be glorified, they could be redeemed. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from with that. But
I want to hear producer Ben's take, as I won't use the description that you used off air for yourself, but as somebody who doesn't have any tattoos, and my position, once again, and I think that I can say this and be holding to the doctrines of the faith, right? That this is an issue where we're totally allowed to have a difference of opinion on as Catholics, right? There's not a doctrine regarding this. I know Catholics who are very pro and very against, and that's a beautiful thing about the church. Father Mike Schmidt, I always bring him up. Sorry, big fan, great jawline. How he talks about the island with the really steep cliffs on either side, right? And how children, if you leave a bunch of children on that island, they're all going to huddle in the middle because they're very scared. But once you build a fence around it, they're able to run around and play and everything, and it's a safe place. And that's what doctrine does for us, right? And so we're allowed to have lots of wiggle room in regards to what we are bound to believe and what we are not. And tattoos are not a doctrine. So what we're not saying on this show is, yes, good, go do it, or no, bad, don't do it. And that's why I'm kind of enjoying this discussion. But you, Ben, you're tattooless.
I'm
Producer
tattooless.
What's your take on it?
So I have had a mixed bag with the thought and the idea of getting a tattoo over the last couple of years. Because I remember when I was, 16, 17, coming up on the legal age to get a tattoo, I was kind of torn on the issue because I was like, that'd be so cool, getting a tattoo. But then my mother was like, no, you're not doing it. No way in a million years.
Catherine doesn't play that.
Catherine doesn't play that way. And she has a tattoo herself.
Does she? Catherine.
Her and all of her siblings, all of her sisters have a tattoo in remembrance of their brother that died when he was 18. And they all have it at a different place, but she's gone on record as saying that if she could, she wouldn't have gotten it. Okay. She would have, she thinks it's a beautiful thing, but she just wouldn't have done it. And so that has kind of been my, her thoughts and opinions on the subject have kind of been my guiding light for a while. But as I started meeting more people, and a really good friend of mine, Mary Swanson, has a
big shout out to Mary.
Big shout out to Mary. She has a couple tattoos herself, and they are all gorgeous. These are some of the most beautiful pieces of art I've ever seen, because all of them were drawn by her sister. They were all hand drawn by her sister, and they all have some deep, significant meaning in her life. And I think that's beautiful. And so how I've kind of started to view tattoos is it's what you make of it, really. And my thoughts and opinions on the subject is I think you should really think long and hard about a tattoo, because it's something permanent, and permanence in your life is something that I take very seriously, because our lives are, in the grand scheme of things, very short, but they've got a lot of stages in that really small time period. And so this is one thing that will be prevalent throughout all of those as soon as you get it. It's locked in. It's a decision you make. And so it's not a decision that you should make lightly. And so if I'm going to get a tattoo, I don't know if I am. I've got an idea of something that I might want to get, but I'm not taking it very lightly. And my thought for a while was... Is it this picture of me and you that's on the EWTN website? John Henry, that is up there. Put that right there. I'm still discerning if that's what I want to get.
It is official doctrine that it's appropriate.
Logo, you don't want that tattoo.
I love that. But one idea I had kind of floating around was maybe I shouldn't get a tattoo until I've fully figured out what my vocation is. And
well, that's interesting. Okay.
And cool. My thought for a long time was I don't necessarily like the idea of a priest with a tattoo.
But Father Mike
Schmitz has one.
Can I just say though, when I saw that, I cried. I literally cried.
Father Mike?
I can tell you more why, but yeah, I literally cried. Go back to that though.
I thought his tattoo was really cool. I like it.
I've only seen the thumbnail.
It's a St. Joseph cross, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's really cool, but the thought of I don't want I wouldn't want like my priest at my parish to have a tattoo, and I can't really explain why. That's not something I've thought long and hard about.
That's fair. You're allowed to have that opinion.
It just it doesn't feel right to me. And then another very permanent decision that I might make in my life is who I'm going to marry. And so I would kind of want, if I'm going to make two permanent decisions in my life, getting married to a person and getting a tattoo, I'd kind of like them to go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And I'd kind of like be able to make that decision with that person, that they should have if I am binding myself in this world to another person, then that person should have a say on what I put on my body. And that was kind of my opinion for a long time. And again, it's been shifting significantly for the past 2 or 3 years.
Hear me out. What if you get married and you get this tattoo, but you also put your wife like
right in the middle?
Here. Yeah, like peeking behind us like a photobomb.
John Henry, I will keep that in the back of my mind. And
run it by her. When the lucky lady comes around, run it by her.
I will, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Any other big picture thoughts on this before I kind of derail us and we run around somewhere else, another direction? I knew it. I could see it in JJ's eyes.
Having mentioned it, I do want to say, despite the fact that I'm 100% for tattoos, if I had to guess, I'd think that our resurrected bodies probably won't have them.
Why?
Okay.
I agree, but why?
Because they're wrong. No, I'm kidding.
I'm 100% for them. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I'm big on, like, the reason I would want to get any tattoo is, like, Byzantine, an icon for my temple. Something to tell something about me or what I believe in, or be a reminder to myself. And I think in heaven, where we fully know God and God fully knows us and we fully know each other, we will no longer have that need to put extra stuff on our bodies to remind ourselves of God, show other people who we are.
God, as much as I want to like say like, no, that's not fair. I spent so much money on these tattoos. It looks so cool. It does 100% make sense, because what is a tattoo more than just a way to express your individuality? Another way to put on clothes. And, are we going to wear clothes when our bodies are resurrected? Probably not. Right. Dude, probably we're going to be there knowing each other. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. All right, so we got like 2 minutes left. We're going to fly through some loaded questions. This was a in-depth one, guys. It got a lot more intense than I thought it was going to be. But as intense as it was, we're going to get even more intense right now with Loaded Questions Junior, the game designed for 8-year-olds. Pick your favorite question. We're going to go through. We're going to answer one of them. You can be as deep or as shallow as you want on these. I usually try to go a little deeper. We'll see. I got one. Real good.
Okay. I've got a really good one too.
But we're not going to start with me. We're going to start with JJ.
I like how the first 2 questions are wrestling related, but I'm not going to tell you my professional wrestler name because I still want that to happen. What is the worst punishment you have ever received? I've taken lots of different punishments. I've taken spankings like a man when I was 7. Yeah. But because that's
manly 7-year-old. Yeah.
That's the thing people do is take spankings
you had the
like
beard
a man.
Then, didn't you? Yeah.
Always the beard.
Born with it.
The worst punishment I ever received was my dad said, "Go get a tablespoon, go get the white vinegar, drink a tablespoon of vinegar."
Oh, it's pretty rough.
Terrible.
Did you say something you shouldn't have said? Is that why that punishment was?
All I remember is the acid running down my throat.
All right.
Must be a pretty good immune system, though.
Yeah.
I've gotten sick like twice since then.
We're big apple cider vinegar people in my house. Yeah, there's a lot of apple cider vinegar happening. A lot of that. Nini.
Okay. No one judged me for this, but my question is, if you could be a member of any TV family, who would you choose?
Big time judgment coming up. I'm ready.
It's actually a Modern Family.
I knew it. 100%. I knew it.
Okay.
Listen, there's just something about Modern Family that's just like, it's so funny, and they're also like, it's a bunch of different people, but they still love each other, and that's just like so cute.
I really like Manny.
I love Manny.
Cracks me up.
I love Manny.
Anyone can fit into that without like raising eyes. Like you might have to pick something like ethnically that makes sense if it weren't Modern Family.
Yeah, and
just
plus,
like anyone.
Plus Sarah Hyland, love that girl. She's such a great actress.
Is that the mom?
She's one of the daughters.
One of the daughters.
Yeah, the really like sassy daughter.
The cooler
daughter. Yeah, I want her as a sister.
All right, awesome. Juan Pablo.
Whom would you avoid getting a kiss from?
Oh,
okay. This one is really it's a situational thing because.
Did you say Judas? I'm sorry for
that. Oh, wow.
That was really good. That was like really like out of like pithy, and you were ready for that one. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
In like Hispanic countries, warm countries, it's very common to kiss someone on the cheek, be like, "Mwah, nice to meet you," this, that, the other. Just imagine, like, I don't know, your teacher or someone like just on the like that you're not really friends with. They're just a little like a power figure, and we both go in for the side kiss a little too angled, and
Oh no!
like that,
Oh no!
worst case scenario has happened. Don't want to repeat it.
All right, no, that's good. That's good. Abby, what you got?
If you could travel back in the past, where would you go? It was like a toss-up for me. I was trying to decide between like the nativity of Christ or the resurrection of Christ, because I think it'd be really cool to like be there with Joseph and Mary. But I also think it'd be really awesome to like be able to enter into the joy of like the resurrection.
I'm on Team Resurrection all day. If I could pick one, yeah.
They come up and they're like, "Where's Jesus?" And you just got a cup of coffee.
My favorite part of the resurrection account, right? And there's obviously a lot of good stuff. Source and Summit, right? Thank goodness for the resurrection. Without that, none of this happens. But is when in the Gospel of John, I think it's John, where John and Peter run, and out of nowhere, John says, "John got there first." And I love the fact that he was like, "I'm going to immortalize the fact that I outran Peter to the tomb forever." 2,000 years from now, people are going to be reading this, and they're going to know that I beat that dude to foot
The beloved one
race.
was the first one to show up.
They keep nodding to that in The Chosen.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
He keeps on being like, "Oh, wait till you see him run, then you'll know who's the faster one."
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's great.
My question is, if you could compete in one Olympic sport, what would it be? All right, so I will. Any Olympic sport is my answer. I think it would be the funniest to watch me compete in backstroke. But the reason because I'm not very good at backstroke, it'd be hilarious. But the reason I wanted to say that one is because. And I want to pitch this to the Olympic Committee. Instead of the best athletes of each country competing, I think they should just randomly assign somebody, regardless of age, regardless of gender, and you should just get it like a week beforehand. It should be like, "Hey, Ben, you're competing in a 100-meter dash in 4 days in Tokyo. We're going to have a plane sent for you." And they do that with everybody from every country, and then we just watch, and it sounds so
It's just the
great.
most average people of every
all
country.
the sports.
With shaved legs.
That would.
Yeah, so, Ben, you could shave your legs and go. Snowboarding, things that are like dangerous, like doesn't matter. I don't care if you've never ice skated before.
Right.
You're on the speed skating team. Good luck. You got a relay coming up.
This
Rock
is
and
the
roll.
Hunger Games, but the Olympics.
Yeah, I dig it. I would watch that so much. I don't watch the Olympics. I would watch every second of the Olympics if that's how it
And it would
went
cost less because you don't have to pay them nearly as much.
Yeah, right,
50,000. That's life changing.
Yeah, amateurs.
down. Oh, I dig it. All right, Ben, what you got?
All right, John Henry, this has been a long time coming. I've never talked about this on the show, and I'm surprised that I haven't. What is your favorite movie?
Oh,
And John
finally.
Henry knows exactly what I'm going to say. It is La La Land. And I'll pick La La Land any day of the week because it is the greatest film of all time, according to me. That is completely subjective.
I'm gonna cry. I love that movie.
Thank you, Juan Pablo.
They should have ended up together.
Okay, we disagree there. But
They should have.
I've seen the movie 11 times, getting ready for my 12th viewing. But it's a cinematic masterpiece. It blends both jazz and love of classic cinema together to this breathtaking love story between two starving artists. Oh, it's just great.
I was in a room one time while La La Land played all the way through. So I too have an opinion on La La Land.
This is a big sticking point between me and John Henry's
This has
relationship.
come up multiple times in studio, and I snored very loudly through the entirety of La La Land.
And I was sitting there awestruck on this terrible projector screen that we had at the beautiful film. I think that was my 7th viewing. Was it? Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm sure it's great. It's no Pacific Rim. So
It is not
there
Pacific
wasn't
Rim. They're very
one
different movies.
giant interdimensional monster fighting a giant robot built by the Chinese in the whole movie. And I'm kind of upset about that. Would have been better if there were. All right. And with those deep thoughts with producer Ben, we're going to end this episode, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been Honest to God on AM 1160 The Quest, Atlanta's Catholic radio. Producer Ben,
Signing off.
over and out.